All right, guys, welcome. This is episode 10 of the Bearzi podcast. For anyone that's new to the podcast, my name is Derek. I'm a YouTuber, content creator, and every once in a while, a podcast host. So today for episode 10, we got a guest today, and it's not just me, and it is Winny from the Mine Now YouTube channel. What's going on, Winny?
Thank you for having me, man. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm all right. You know what? I was thinking about this yesterday. How did I find you, or how did you find me? Do you remember? I know it was on YouTube.
Yeah, what I usually do is like I comment on like small YouTube channels, and I happen to stumble upon yours somehow. Yeah.
Do you remember how though? Like through a video? Which one? Do you know?
Oh, I can't really remember, man. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I can't really remember.
Oh, well, that's all good. Well, either way, I discovered Winny on YouTube, who is also a content creator, and I actually kind of liked the logo of, I guess it's your business called Mine Now, or the channel name of your channel. So I went and checked it out, and at first, to be perfectly honest, I was like, what the heck is this guy talking about? You had videos on like spiritual enlightenment or something, and I was like, okay, this does not resonate with me at all. I don't even know what that is. But it wasn't until I watched one of your videos when you talked about battling your addiction or battling your bad habit of smoking. And then I was like, oh, okay, this guy's actually introspective. He thinks about himself. He tries to better his life. And that's what kind of really resonated with me, because it was kind of like something real that I could relate to. And then I sort of was like, okay, so what is this spiritual enlightenment stuff? And I've been like super interested in actually figuring out like what that is. Like I still don't even really understand the whole concept of it.
Yeah. So I actually stumbled upon this topic like, let's say 3 or 4 months back. So I've actually been meditating for quite some time now, like let's say 4 years. It hasn't been like consistent, so I haven't like meditated every single day, but I try to, and I've just been meditating because, well, it makes you feel calm and you become more mindful, and all of the benefits that you can search up on Google or YouTube. And yeah, it has given me a lot of benefits, and I really liked it. And then eventually I stumbled upon this topic that my friend actually told me of, and he said like, dude, you gotta check this out, spiritual enlightenment. And I was like, okay, what the hell is this, man?
Yeah, no, I have the same response.
So I actually checked out the video from actualize.org. I don't know if you've ever watched one of his videos. If not, I highly recommend it. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and he really delves in, like, he goes really in depth with these kind of topics. Not only this, but one of the topics that he also talks about. And so I checked that video out, and he, well, explained this spiritual enlightenment thing. And it's really, the first time I watched it, I was very confused, and I was just like, okay, so the whole concept is that there is no you. The you that you think exists doesn't exist. So it's not like you're in the matrix or anything like that, okay? Like whatever you see, it is there, but just the identity, it's not there. So in my case, Winnie does not really exist, but I will get later into that. But the first time I watched that, my ego kind of was, I don't know, it was kind of like defending itself by just like, oh, you know what, if there's no you, then okay, who gives a shit, then let's just do whatever you want. And so my coping mechanism is always like to smoke, and yeah, I'm like very vulnerable kind of, and that also kind of revolves around low self-esteem and kind of not being too certain with what to do, like with my life and stuff. But I've got to learn a lot, like really a lot about myself. And so the goal of the spiritual enlightenment is to liberate yourself. There is no suffering, since there is no one to suffer, right? And this is a really lifelong journey. Like I don't know when I will be enlightened, maybe in 30 years, 40, 50, who knows. But it's interesting because there are different stages and levels that you can actually attain. And I have gotten to experience this one level, so to speak. It's called the spiritual awakening, where you literally experience that there is no self. So there is a difference between believing it and understanding it and experiencing it. And so yeah, I've gotten to experience it, and I was like, holy shit, what is this? It's kind of like freaky, but you just kind of like raise your consciousness level to another level.
Oh, that sounds
So
deep, man.
yeah, and but I got to add that in order to really maintain that, you need to um, meditate every single day, and I also realized, like, once a day, like I meditate half an hour a day, and I realized that it's not really enough to maintain that consciousness level. And again, it might vary, from person to person, but yeah, that is what I've experienced so far.
That's interesting. When you say that there is no self, do you mean there's no self in the physical sense? Like, is that what's
No,
going
as
on?
in like um so if I asked you right now, okay, who are you? Or in my case, it's called self-inquiry, right? This is the
Self-inquiry?
process
Okay.
of, yeah, self-inquiry. So basically asking who you really are. And when you ask that, you will say, well, okay, I'm just going to say, me, it's Winnie. I have these parents. I was born there, and I like to do this and that. But okay, that's all good, but that is kind of just a thought. So are you the thought? And we can agree right now, there is no past, there is no future, there is only right now. And the work that you're doing in this spiritual enlightenment journey is whatever you experience, that is the most truest thing, right? It's not a hearsay, it's not like what you believe or understand. It's literally what you experience. And what you experience right now, right, while we're doing this podcast, is that there is only presence, right? There is no past, there is no future. We can't time travel or anything like that. There is only here and right now. So when I ask myself, okay, who are you, like, right now? And you say, or this is how I went about it, right? So I said, well, I'm me. I have this physical form. Then I ask again, okay, but who is this I? Then I go again, well, what is this I? It's okay. The one who creates the thought and makes the movements. So yeah, I am the brain. The brain. So can you experience your brain right now? Then you're like, no, but it, come on, man, it's scientifically proven, man. I cannot say, like, I'm not the brain, right? If I didn't have no brain, I would not exist. So I'm like, yeah, but that again is just a thought. So who are you, like? What do you experience, man? Then I'm like, okay, wait, let me really concentrate here and focus. I am okay. I am the one who makes these thoughts and makes these movements. But what is that? What do you experience? Then when you, like, really get down to it, you then eventually experience that you, the real you, right, is just the awareness, the pure awareness. And what is this awareness? It is kind of nothing and everything at the same time. So that is the real you. Now, the you that we are all kind of, that we think that we are, this identity and everything, what we think we are is kind of the conceptual self. It's not the real you. It's kind of a self that we have believed to be ourselves. It's something that we've like made up, and it's really challenging to get away from this because we have been living it for so long, and so it is also very challenging to adapt a different point of view and to raise that consciousness level and to maintain it. That is also like each level has its challenge, and I see it myself, like how challenging it is to have this point of view that the real you is not really you is not the identity, but rather the pure awareness, right? So I mean, you might be asking yourself like why would anyone do this, right? Like what's what's the point of doing all of this? That okay, let's just say I get to experience that, or you, Bearzi, you get to experience that you are just a pure awareness, and all of what you think that you are is just conceptual. Like what does it bring you? Like it's the liberation, man. Like there is no suffering, and the suffering, that is what causes a lot of unhappiness, and it's just liberating.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because, well, from my point of view, personally, I'm a person that doesn't really believe in anything, but I believe that anything is possible. So even though I wouldn't necessarily like not believe in, say, this whole like meditation, spiritual enlightenment stuff, that doesn't mean I'm not open to the idea and learning from it and learning like about it, because I find it interesting, because I have no idea what any of it is about. Now, I just wanted to double back real quick. You said that you meditate daily?
Yes. So I actually got sick last month for 2 weeks, and so I couldn't meditate. And I am slowly getting back to it again. So I'm not really doing it daily, but like let's say every 2 days now. But I'm slowly getting back to it because meditating half an hour is challenging.
Yeah, it's hard, man. I've tried it.
And so, you need to kind of slowly build up to it again. But before that, yes, I was meditating daily for half an hour, and yeah.
When you meditate, do you follow like a mantra, or do you just consume yourself in complete silence and think about nothing? Like, what's your process to meditation?
So I focus on the breath, but recently, so when I learned about the spiritual enlightenment, I did more of the self-inquiry, which is asking yourself, okay, who you really are, and then you really boil down to the true you, and that is called the self-inquiry. But now that I've already kind of experienced that, I still do kind of self-inquiry, but now I do more of mindfulness. So I focus on the breath, and just whatever comes, I allow it to come and be mindful of that, be aware of that. But then I try to focus on my breath. That's like my priority, kind of.
Okay, yeah, because that's how I used to do it. Because I tried daily meditation. I made a video on it maybe about a year ago, and it was really difficult. Like most people would say, like, oh, you just sit there and do nothing. But when you're alone with your thoughts and you just try to think of nothing and feel nothing and do nothing, it's like, it's actually very difficult to just keep going. And I found that by concentrating on taking like a big inhale, like I would inhale for maybe like 5 seconds, and then I would just try to hold it and then do like a slow exhale, and I would only concentrate on my breath, and that kind of helped me clear my mind and get the full benefit of meditation. But the problem with meditation for me, and like a lot of people as well, is that a lot of people say they do it, but they don't actually practice it, right? Like I've heard so many people say, yeah, I meditate. It's, it's awesome for me. But then, when push comes to shove, it's not part of their daily routine, or they barely do it at all. So for me, meditation has kind of turned into this thing where I'll do maybe twice a month, and I'll do it when I feel like I'm too busy in my mind, where I'm too preoccupied with all these different tasks and projects that I'm working on. And every once in a while, I kind of just need that little mental break from everything. And I kind of like how you said earlier how meditation is sort of like the mental training for your mind, kind of like how we go to the gym to train our bodies physically, where meditation can kind of help improve your mental health.
Exactly. Yeah, meditation is, I really consider it as a mental gym. It's really the gym for the mind, and you need to do it. I'm not going to say like, oh, you have to do it. You have to find what works for you. Okay, I say this with everything, and so meditation just happens to be the one thing that really calms me down. And for me, what's most important is actually this consciousness level that you can attain when you do it properly, when you do it right, and so you need to see, okay, why are you actually meditating? Like, what's your purpose? And then you actually find the meditation that fits your purpose and your goal. You don't have to do this self-inquiry thing. And like me talking about spiritual enlightenment and stuff, it's not like an obligation for anyone to pursue. Like, I think you really need to just first know, okay, why do you want to meditate? What is your purpose? Because there are so many meditation styles, like there's like this transcendence meditation, there's mindfulness meditation, then there's this meditation with mantra and all of that. So you just need to see, okay, what fits to you, and on which level you are at. And I think at the end, there is no right or wrong. There's just like
whatever
what
works
fits
for the person, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, true. Makes sense. Now, when you do, or when you were doing meditation on a daily basis, how did that affect your habit of smoking? Did it improve it at all, or like what did it have an impact on?
Okay, so this is a difficult one. So what I did was I was actually just observing these urges that I have, and just realizing that they're just there, okay? And I was just literally not, I wasn't absorbed by it, I was just observing these urges that I have. And so that is, I don't know, it's really a weird thing, because when there are still triggers. For instance, like, when I drink alcohol, I still have this urge
when you're
to
with your
smoke.
friends, I think you said.
Yes, exactly. So there are still triggers, and so I can say that, okay, if I do this, let's say for the next 2 months, and I've raised my consciousness level to another level, it is then it is then a bit easier to kind of observe these urges and not really fall back into them. But then you also kind of need to ask yourself, okay, are you really okay with it? And like, what's the reason behind like why you're not doing it? And I see that, I see this, I have like these two kind of characters, and I think like not only me, but I think like everyone, it's like kind of this ego and the higher self, kind of. And so, and then there's this kind of, the higher self I kind of associate with the consciousness as well, and like being aware of everything. But that's the tricky part. Like, the ego is so strong, and if you kind of take your attention away from it just for a second, if there's a trigger that allows your ego to get back, it will come back. and it's so strong that you just you fall back into it, and you're just this ego that wants like short-term pleasure and stuff like that. And everyone has their ego, and you need to kind of just see like what the triggers are and stuff, and then know like what the real reason is behind the things that you do, but going back to what you ask again, like has it helped me? So what meditation and the spiritual enlightenment and all of this does is to have another consciousness level, and so you are more observant, and you're more mindful of the things that you do, but that does not mean that the urges are just gone just like that, like everything is still there and it's still the same. Like, if you're a smoker, for instance, and you want to quit, the urges will still be there whether or not you are meditating a lot or not. It's just the consciousness level that is what is different. And so I don't know if that really answers the question.
No,
or
I think
not.
I think I kind of get it. You kind of, it gives you an opportunity to think about it more and to become more aware of your ego and what triggers you and how it, ignites that quote unquote bad habit. It's kind of, I find it interesting because I'm a person that has never smoked a cigarette in my life, and I've never even tried one.
Wow.
So I in my mind, I have no idea what that addiction to nicotine is. Like, I don't even know what it is. For some reason, I guess I never had the opportunity to try it. And I've always been a person that's kind of more health conscious. So I very seldomly drink or, eat shitty food. So I kind of never had that opportunity to fall victim, to nicotine or whatever you get really addicted to in cigarettes. But it wasn't until I saw you had this, like, I think it was a book, and you drew like a grid in the book and you tracked every single day you smoked, and you tracked how many individual cigarettes you smoked. And I was like, wow,
Yes.
This guy is like so serious about it. Like, you took your bad habit of smoking so serious, but you also weren't afraid to admit that you are aware that it's a bad habit and you know that it's bad for your health, and you're trying to do every single thing you can to kind of break that bad habit and get away from it. But so in that book thing, what do you actually track?
Oh, I track. So I'm actually very glad that you brought that up, because this is literally the best thing that I've ever done in my life, or one of the best, which is like tracking literally every single thing that I do each day. And so I track my, like, have I stretched? Have I meditated? Have I done anything like for my spiritual journey? What did I do for my skill set? Did I exercise? Did I do anything creative? What did I do intellectually? Have I gotten in touch with my family or friends? Am I sober? Wow. I'm also tracking no fabbing, no junk food. When did I have my, no fab, bro. And so, we can get into that later on as well. And meals, when I have them, and then my vocal cords and neck, that is kind of like an individual thing, because I kind of have damaged my vocal cords and I have an injured neck, and so I track like, oh, is it okay today, is it not okay? And then I see like, okay, what like how my productivity is on that day. That is actually new. This is something that I added just this month, like the productivity and the feeling. And now I also say like, okay, what can I do better the next day? This is also something that I recently added. And I also track my sleep, how much sleep really I get. And so those are the things that I track.
Oh, that's interesting. Because the other thing too that I wanted to ask you about smoking, we were talking about this before the podcast, but you're from Berlin, Germany, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in Germany, is it common for people to smoke? Is that like part of society? Is smoking like a big thing?
Um, well, I mean, there are people who smoke and people who don't. So I think that's everywhere. I mean, if you're asking me if it's really a thing, I don't think so. But for me, I started like my first cigarette that I ever like tried was when I was 17, 16 or 17 because we were bored. I mean, I
Oh
know
my
it's
God.
such a stupid excuse,
That's
but
so crazy.
yeah. So that's what I did, and then I think I smoked for 1 year, nearly every single day, but not a lot. And then I kind of stopped, and then I smoked like every 3 months or so. And then yeah, and now it I actually looked it up like right now. I smoke like every kind of 2 months, and there's always like this trigger that okay, either it's like from alcohol. You know, the alcohol is like my worst enemy. When I drink, I always kind of turn to smoking, which is exactly the reason why I don't drink that often because I want to avoid that. Then the second thing, and this actually goes deeper. Well, this gets very personal, but since everything is personal anyway, but it goes into um, like escaping from reality um, because I feel like I have this fear of success, and then there's this dilemma that I'm kind of in because I'm studying international business. I don't know if you know this, but now you do. and and so every time I study, I'm like, damn, but dude, you should like be using this time to make videos and like follow your dream, be like a full-time content creator. And when I make videos, I then like there's this voice from my parents or my family saying like, yeah, but be realistic, you gotta like earn some money and stuff. And so once I'm like in that dilemma, I kind of either procrastinate or then turn to cigarettes. And so I can really get into
Oh,
depth
okay, I see.
with this, but yeah, those are kind of the three main reasons why I actually turned to cigarettes. And there you can see again, all of this is the ego like playing, this conceptual self, because it's like protecting its identity. It doesn't want to get hurt and vulnerable and all of that. But yeah, go on, man. I think you wanted to ask something.
Oh, that's interesting. No, it's kind of it's an interesting thing to hear about from my perspective because I've lived a completely different life than you, and I think I'm a lot older than you because I'm 36. So
Yeah.
we are probably in two completely different stages in our life, and it's interesting how like you said when you were 17, just because you were bored, and then you tried smoking, and it just kind of compounded over the years, and it's just been this habit that's kind of been stuck with you, and you're trying to fight it, and you're very aware about it. And most people are, just in denial. They're just like, yeah, it's just one cigarette. But when you actually count the individual cigarettes that you smoke, I remember one day you were like, yeah, it was 8, and the next day it was 2, and the next day it was 14, and I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, 14 cigarettes? Like that seems so crazy. But from my perspective,
Yeah.
like I don't understand the addiction. And the other thing too is I'm kind of a fairly frugal person. Like just going out and spending money on cigarettes would probably piss me off, and that would
Yeah.
definitely sway me from a habit like that that's very expensive. So I think part of my personality and part of the reason why I never really got into cigarettes or any of those other type of things is I never had an opportunity to try it. I had no interest, and I'm just like too cheap to do something that costs a lot of money unless it's like super affordable in Germany, because I know here in Canada it's really expensive for a pack.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's actually quite expensive here too, and it's like I think a pack costs like €7 or something. So
Damn,
I don't know how.
€7. That's like
Yeah.
10 Canadian maybe, or maybe even more, because a euro is strong, right?
Yeah. I can actually look it up, but yeah, it's not cheap. Let's put it that way. It's definitely not cheap.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Dang. You know what else is interesting? So you were telling me earlier that you're half Thai and half German.
Yes.
So you're Asian European, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
But I got all the
So am
looks
I.
from my mom.
Yes. You know what? So am I. Are we like long lost brothers or something?
Perhaps, man. Perhaps. I mean, do you actually? I mean, I actually have BFAMs. BFAMs are a brother from another mother.
Yeah, I
And
know.
and so you might be one of them, bro. Who knows?
Oh
You know?
man. That's hilarious because I've been to Germany many times because my dad is Austrian and Italian. So we used to fly from Toronto to Munich. And then from Munich, we would take a train. It's not Vienna, but another town in West Austria. There would be like a train that we would take to get to my dad's place in Austria. So I've been to Germany like many times. Not really in the city, but just like moving through the country as a form of transportation. And then my mom is full Japanese, so I'm exactly like you.
Damn.
European Asian.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and then I found out that your birthday is on the 2nd of November, bro.
Yeah, I know. Your birthday is my birthday is November 2nd and your birthday was November 1st. I was like, bro, what is going on here?
Dude, it's really crazy. Like I believe in law of attraction, and like the people that you attract into your life it just reflects on the person you are. And also, like, dude, the universe and the life, it's so magical, man, if you think about it. Like just the concept of law of attraction, that is already such a miracle if you think about it. Do you believe in that?
Oh, for sure. Like I don't believe in it in like a mystical sense. I do believe that your actions kind of dictate the law of attraction type of thing. Like if you're putting positive energy out there, you're more likely to attract those positive people, right? And that's what kind of builds up that law of attraction as well, right? And I feel like it's not just some type of mystical thing that exists in the universe. I feel like our input as human beings has a big influence on those outcomes.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, dude, it was like 3 months ago or something where I actually tested this out, and dude, it's gonna blow your mind away, man. So so I was like, okay, this law of attraction, a lot of people are talking about it, and they're just saying like, okay, it's not about like wishing for something. It's actually like already believing that you already have it. That is like the difference, and you really need to know this. And I was like, okay, let me try this. So the first thing that I tried was like, okay, I really believe, and it has already happened, that I got a message from a friend of mine that I haven't spoken to in a long time. So then the next day I actually got a message from someone that I haven't texted in a long time. I was like, oh, you know what? Come on, this might be a coincidence. So I was like, yeah, let's try something else. Let's go a bit further here and try getting 20 euro, like finding it on the streets. And like that would be mind blowing. And so I did the same thing again, and I said like, okay, I believe that I already have it. It has already happened. It's not something that I'm wishing for. And so when you believe that you already have it, you're not gonna be like constantly thinking about it, because you're 100% convinced that you already have it. So you kind of think about it and then you let it go because it has already happened. And so that's kind of the way I did it and went about it. And then at 10 or 11 p.m., my grandpa actually called me because he was with his friends, and well, one of them got drunk, so I had to like drive him to his house, and at the end he gave me 20 euro. And I'm like, okay, you know what, it's not like I found the 20
Okay, I
euro on the
see.
streets, but it's still like really fascinating. And so I was like, okay, you know what, this might have been another coincidence. So I said like, you know what, let me think of a specific feather that I find. So like feather from a bird. And I thought of like the color and the shape of it. And I think 3 days or 4 days after, I found that feather. I'm like, what on earth is going
Whoa.
on here?
It's like it
It is.
manifested into your life or something.
Yes, exactly, man. Exactly. And so, like I already told you about like my injury on my neck and the damaged vocal cords that I have. And so I feel like everything what has led up to right now, like all of it, like with the smoking and that I keep on escaping, to my own reality, and this procrastination and kind of like figuring it all out, and this tracking and this spiritual enlightenment thing. I realized that now my life, and this is what I'm going to be dedicating my like everything what I do to this, is that it's an experiment of the magic of life. So this literally what I'm doing with mine now. I'm experimenting with the magic of life, with the law of attraction, and I'm doing something for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just sitting on my couch and say like, you know what, it's gonna be there. But I actually like do something. But it's also like experimenting with, yeah, with life and the magic of it. So yeah, that's
Oh, that's
what
awesome.
has.
I have, I kind of have a similar approach to things. I know that you are a strong believer in the power of your mind and how powerful your thoughts can be when you visualize something in a certain way. And I think it was like a couple of weeks ago, I was really deep into visualization. And because I have like a huge goal in like deep in my mind about what I want to do with my content creation, where I want to take this podcast, and where I want my YouTube channel to go. And I've always had this belief that if you know exactly in your mind where you want to be, like say, for example, it's point Z or point Z from A to Z, if you know exactly where you want to go, then all those other things that will get you there, they're just going to manifest in your brain and you're going to figure them out. So say, for example, if you know 100% in your heart that you want to be a content creator or YouTube, then all of a sudden, or YouTuber, then all of a sudden you're going to realize, okay, I got to get better at speaking. I got to get comfortable with the camera. I got to learn how to use my camera. I got to get better with thumbnails and titles and keywords. And there's all these levels that will come up that you know exactly you need to learn those things and get better at those things in order to get to that point Z. But if you never visualize or use the power of your mind to know what you want, then you're kind of just hoping that it's going to happen. But by using like your brain power and using visualization, then you can actually kind of make it true.
Hmm. Exactly. I totally agree with you on that, man. And it's so funny because when I turned 26, I was so I mean, I still am. But from that moment on, I am so sure that I am a full-time YouTuber, and I will become one. Like it's so like, I don't know, it feels like I am meant to do this, and I have this conviction of like this is what I am. I never had this. I always like, because I'm doing this law of attraction every single night before I go to bed. I would say like, okay, I have like a recovered neck, I have a recovered voice, I'm a full-time YouTuber, and all of that was kind of like, it's a repetition and kind of a mantra, but I was not really believing it. But now I know I already have it, and that is a key difference, not just like really kind of thinking about it or like dreaming about it, but actually already having it and embodying it, and then kind of like letting it go so that the universe can do its thing, and then it's just a matter of time. But obviously, like when you think that you are already a full-time YouTuber, then I mean, what does a YouTuber do? He, makes videos, he gets better with making videos, and all of what you just said there, with the thumbnails and keywords and all of that, it all goes into that. But it really, I don't know, it changes your mindset in a very positive way, because you already know you have it, man, and you deserve it. That's the thing. Like, people sometimes just think like, oh, you don't deserve it, or maybe it's not realistic and this is a dream and all of that. But I think, like, when you really see that a lot of things are possible, it's crazy. Like, if you just think that you deserve it and you already have it, and everyone is born with some kind of talent on this planet, you can get it. Obviously you got to put in the work and all of that, but yeah, I think life is just a miracle. But with that being said, I also want to add that there are still weaknesses. Like, for instance, me, with smoking and stuff, and I already told you with the reasons, like, with the low self-esteem and this dilemma and stuff. That's why it's so crucial to deal with these problems and knowing the reasons behind it, because that is like the only thing what can hold you back is, like, okay, one of the biggest thing is the ego, in my opinion. And if you had a bad childhood, for instance, like, I mean, I wouldn't say that I was unlucky, but I had kind of this feeling of unworthiness from my childhood. But I'm not blaming here, so I'm not even encouraging anyone to complain or blame anybody, because you are the one who needs to then deal with it. But then see the patterns, and like, why do you do this? Like, that's why I have my tracker, and I see, okay, this is when I smoke. Okay, why am I smoking? Why am I procrastinating? And sometimes it has to happen more than once, like in my case. And again, this is not me like encouraging you to like make the same mistake over and over again, but in my case, I am actually glad that it happened over and over and over again, because I see then the pattern really vividly and clearly, and then I can really deal with the reasons, the reasons behind them. And so yeah, the ego is I wouldn't say bad. We all need the ego to kind of
it's a
see
huge roadblock.
yeah, I mean,
I struggle with my ego as well, man. I think everyone does to a certain extent. Because it's not easy.
That's true, man. That's true. But we all need it, man. Because without it, we can't see the good side of life, or yeah, kind of the other side, right?
Yeah, of course.
You kind of need the ego.
Yeah. So when you said you turned 26, was that this month?
Yes, on the 1st of November.
Oh, okay. So you're a 94 baby.
Yes.
All right. So I'm 10 years your senior.
Well, yes, you are. But yeah, I mean, it's great, man. For me, I love gaining, different perspectives, even though I am talking more about myself right now, but I already know, like, we would get along really well. It's just, I don't know, it's just a weird kind of feeling. Like, I just attract these kind of people into my life, and you do too, like everyone does. And you just know that with some people you will get along with very well. I know, have you ever had that kind of feeling before?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. But it wasn't until recently that I kind of started to attract that whole positivity type of thing. Because I know for you, well, I'm kind of envious of the fact that, at age 26, you're very self-aware of yourself. You take your awareness and self-improvement and, try to better your health. You take your life very seriously. 10 years ago when I was 26, I was just like playing video games, playing basketball, like literally doing nothing of value and not trying to improve myself whatsoever. And this resulted in me wasting all of my 20s and the first few years of my 30s until I turned like, I don't know, I think it was 30 or 31. And I was like, holy shit, you know, I probably have what, 35 more good years left until the wheels fall off. And what have I done with my life? I've done absolutely nothing. And this is not a fault or an excuse from my parents, but when I grew up with very caring and loving parents. Both of them were there, and I have a brother. So I had a really great family that loved me, that supported me, but I never took advantage of that. And I ended up just always being a lazy kid that would get by just doing the absolute minimum. And I would just, make it through school with 70s or make it through college with B's or whatever, right? And then I never really built any mental toughness or any real life experiences. Whenever I would get like, I don't know, a flat tire in the car, oh, I have to call my dad. Or if I ever, hurt myself or something, oh, I got to call my mom. Or if I have a problem with taxes, it's always like I need someone else to do things for me. And I grew up a very, very weak person. Like I always had lots of friends. I had no issues with being insecure or being bullied, like none of that. Like I had no problems with like anything. But I never fully utilized my potential or my time at all. And it wasn't until I turned 30 where I had like, I guess you would call it not a midlife crisis. What is that? Like 1/3 life crisis. And then I realized like, wow, like I've literally accomplished nothing and I've been on this earth for 30 years. Like, what am I doing? I work some, crappy data entry job. I have no life ambitions. Like I have nothing. And that's when I was like, okay, like enough of this nonsense. I got into like self-development, self-improvement, working on my diet, going to the gym, trying to read books through audiobooks. And it was just like this complete 360 in terms of dedication to improving my life. And it wasn't until I made that switch and I started to incorporate more positive habits into my mindset, into my lifestyle, that I started to attract, like you said, these more like-minded people. And now that I've been putting myself out on YouTube, you kind of just like cross paths with one another. And I've started to get in contact with all these content creators that are, it's kind of funny because all you guys are a lot younger than I am. YouTube is like, I feel like it's like a young man's game. And I haven't really been doing anything for so long, even though my account has been created since like 2007 or something. So I've had my channel for like 13 years now. But everyone I meet is like always this, it feels like they're a younger version of myself, but they're more self-aware. And what I try to do is not just preach positivity, but the one thing that I have that I know is very valuable is my life experiences. And, being older, you kind of go through these motions and ups and downs and swings of life, how the emotions are. And I feel like by just putting out, a positive message, a real and authentic message, that you're going to find those like-minded people and they're going to find you one day or another.
That is so true. That is so true. Talking about like the age and, you said like you wasted your 20s and stuff. And I do get your point of view. But one thing that I always like say to anybody is like, regret does not even, it does not exist in my dictionary, because the thing is, I am 100% sure if you could go back in time, you would make exactly the same quote unquote mistake or whatever you did when you were 20, because you don't have the experience and the knowledge that you have right now. That means that everything is meant to be how it's meant to be. Obviously, like we have like people around us, and then sometimes we see, oh, he or she has already figured it out, like when he or she is 15, and look at me, I am 20. Like sometimes the ego kind of gets into that kind of thinking. But this is also one of the reasons why I am pursuing this spiritual enlightenment, because of this liberation, and because of sometimes the ego, and again depends on the individual, but it can really lead you to not depression, but it can lead you to being a bit more pessimistic, because you might say like, oh, I should have figured things out earlier, or like I should have this and that. And the age thing really comes to importance, which like, come on, it's not that important, because at the end of the day, you are leading your life. You are unique, I am unique, we all have our different timeline. And at the end of the day, even though you might not see it, that it's, if you think like you're really low and nothing makes sense, and you think like you're in a hole, so to speak, it will all make sense at the end. Like there was a time, I call it the hobo month. Okay, I know, I think I've already told.
Hobo? Oh, like homeless?
Yeah, exactly, exactly, man. I call it the hobo month, man.
The
And
hobo
that,
month.
yes. So in that month, I literally smoked so much, so many cigarettes. I drank alcohol. I binged watched movies. I did not even work because I was living off of my savings. I didn't do shit. I was destroying my health. I think this was like two years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And at that point, I thought like, you know what? I don't even know what my purpose is. Like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I felt completely lost. But, I am glad, again, that happened. I'm glad that I had that hobo month, even though I was destroying my health. But it was meant to be. And I learned a lot about myself. Like, why was I in that rut? Why was I thinking like that? I'm always constantly, I'm just fascinated by me, by the mind, by the ego. Why it thinks like that? Why does it have to do this? And each day, and that's why, again, it comes back to my tracking. Like, I see patterns, and it's amazing to see them, because sometimes you don't have an overview. But here I literally have the best overview that I can ask for, and there you can then contemplate and ask yourself, okay, what's really the reason behind you do this, and why do you fall into that trap and stuff. And so then you can work on eliminating those triggers, or delve in deeper into yourself. Like in my case, it was like this feeling of unworthiness, and this low self-esteem, and never like really care, like I never cared about like myself, as in like I thought I was not valuable enough for the world, and I knew when I was 16 years old, or 17, no, 16, around that age, I knew that I wanted to become an actor. And that is like kind of my dream, and it will always be a part of me. And maybe in 10 to 20 years down the road, I will do it. But for now, I realize that this is kind of my calling, which is like this content creation, and with spirituality and the spiritual enlightenment, with visual storytelling, because it just makes sense. Like everything what I've been through and this experience, it has led up to now. And it kind of reminds me of the quote from Tony Robbins, where he says like, your biggest weakness can turn into your biggest strength, or something like that. And all of those weaknesses has become like my biggest strength, because it has turned into a story that I can tell. And I'm also, I also got to add that I'm grateful and also lucky to have these kind of strengths, that I love making videos, and I've actually been doing that since I was 10, always like documenting things and filming things. And so yeah, it's like it all makes sense. It's crazy. Like that's why I say like, okay, if you're in a position where you think like you don't know what to do with your life and stuff, I'm not saying like just to embrace it, but somehow yes, also gain different perspectives. But sometimes it's just meant to be, like you need to go through it. And yeah, I know this is just talking from my personal experience and perspective. So yeah, Sorry, I just went really in depth
No, that's all good.
into
I
this.
agree with what you said, especially with like if you could travel back in time, you would just make the same decisions because you don't know then what you know now. And
Exactly, exactly.
I don't, it's not that I regret my past choices, but like one thing that I do know is from my family, I come from like a lot of, I would guess you would call them computer engineers in my family. So like academics and university is huge in my family. And everyone has done some sort of post-secondary where it's either college or university except for me. I am the only one who has only finished high school, and that's the furthest level of education I have. And every single person in my family, whether it's my brother, my cousins, all of them, they've all gone to university in some form or another. But when I think about it now, I'm actually very happy that I didn't finish university because if I did, then maybe I'd be stuck in some office cubicle job working away for some stupid salary or doing a job that I hate right now because I've turned into such a creative person. So even though I made such poor decisions early in my 20s, but what I like to do is I like to make sure I don't make those same type of mistakes where I could have better utilized my time. And even though I probably would have made those same mistakes if I did somehow go back in time, but now in the present, I need to make sure that I maximize every hour in my day now because like I said, I'm 36 right now and there's a certain level of goals and achievements that I want to achieve before I die. And there's a lot of things that I want to accomplish in my life. And when you get up in age, it becomes harder and harder to accomplish those things. So when I look at my age now, I think about it like, okay, in 4 years, I'm going to be 40 and my daughter is going to be 4.5 years old by then. Like what am I going to be doing with my life? Am I going to be accomplishing any of those creative goals that I've set out? Or am I just going to be stuck working some dead end job just to be able to pay my mortgage for my family? Like I'm so focused on not making the same mistakes that I made through procrastinating and just being lazy. And I try to be as assertive with my time now as I possibly can because, as you get older, you're gonna realize like your body starts breaking down athletically. I can't play sports like how I used to. I wake up in the mornings and sometimes my back hurts. I'm like, wow, what is this? Am I like my body's like slowly dying? Like I'm only 36, right? But you kind of you slowly start to age and you slowly start to get that I like to call it old man mentality where you become super conservative. The older you get, you try to avoid as much risk as possible. And I'm like, whoa, wow, okay, I see what's going on here. Like I'm actually aging and I can feel it. It's not like before where I can play basketball for 8 days, wake up the next morning, I'm good and hit the gym. Now it's like I need to be very mindful of my decisions and I need to be very careful with how I spend my time. And I just think of it like I want to learn from my past mistakes, but also don't want to make the same mistakes, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Yeah, that makes total sense, man. I think it's crucial to make mistakes, and I think everybody on this planet makes mistakes. But then, yeah, you then have to decide whether to make these mistakes again or not, because yeah, you learn from them and you get kind of wiser. And yeah, I sorry, I'm actually just thinking of myself being in a cave and having like really long white beard and kind of like looking wise and like telling awesome quotes to people. I don't know why that picture just
Oh, I remember
came
you said
up
that
in
in
my
one of your videos. People
yeah,
like
it
come to
just
you and
popped
like
up
ask
again.
you what's the meaning of life.
Yes.
You tell them you don't know.
Oh, anyway, man.
That's kind of funny. That's interesting. So you're gonna be like a
But
monk one day?
I actually want to be a monk for at least 3 months, because yeah, I just want to, and also because it's kind of like a tradition to pray for your mother, but I will pray for my family, so to speak, and it's actually a great opportunity to also raise that consciousness because you have a lot of time to meditate, right?
Yeah.
But I will definitely do it maybe in 5 to 10 years time or something like that, where because right now really prioritizing on YouTube, making videos and stuff like that, and kind of honing my skills. But yeah, talking about like going to university and stuff, because you said like you're the only person who didn't go to university, and you know, like it kind of like reminds me of me. I mean, even though yes, I am going to one, but if it were just up to me, I would actually quit tomorrow. But I see that I am still kind of young, and because my great grandma, she's like 93 or 94, and she really wants me to finish this college, and you know, it still actually takes me 1.5 years or something. So I was like, okay, you know what, you know, for your present, and I don't know like how long she's going to live because she's quite old, you know, 94 or 93.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this, but then I know that once I have my degree, that is when I am really free. You know, like right now, I still feel like I am in this kind of chain. If that makes any sense, like in a cage. And I'm not complaining. I'm not blaming here or blaming anyone here, because I still have a lot or many more years to live, if I like really take care of myself. And but I know that the day I graduate, that is the day when I'm completely free from everyone. And yeah, that is just a side note that I wanted to add, because you kind of touched upon that topic. And yeah, that is something that I wanted to share.
No, that's good, man. You're a better man than I was, because my family, exact same thing. They wanted me to finish, and then when I dropped out, like my mom cried, like, and it was horrible. It was one of like the worst days of my life. Not because she cried or because she was sad, but because my parents spent so much time, effort, and investment in raising me right that I let them down. And that's like a huge emotion to go through. And you know, I tried. I went to university once, and then I went to college 2 or 3 more times after that. So I tried on four separate occasions for 4 completely different fields of study, and I failed every single time. So it wasn't the fact that like I couldn't try or I didn't try. I did, but it just wasn't for me, and I couldn't get through all the reading and learning things I just honestly don't care about. Now I don't know how the university and college system is in Germany, but in Canada, you're kind of forced to take these courses that make you a well-rounded citizen. So say, for example, I wanted to become, go into computer engineering or computer programming. But then when I go to school, they're forcing me to do history and English and sociology and all these other stupid classes that I have no interest in doing, right? So then when I got my grades, I'd get like, I don't know, like 88 in physics, like 91 in mathematics, but then I get like 17% in history. And then I got put on probation, right? Because my GPA or my total average is so bad, because I did not care at all for those other subjects. But here they force you to do them, and it kind of like sets you up for failure. And one of the big things here too is our tuition is so expensive, and you have to pay for it yourself, because education is not free at all, and you got to pay for post-secondary. And I was, trying to work a job in the summer to save up the money to pay for all my books and all my courses and all that. And the whole thing was just a complete mess. And I was just like, you know what? It's not for a lack of effort, but I tried my best. It didn't work out, and it's just not for me. And I know what you mean about like the freedom thing, because the day that I finally dropped out and decided I'm completely done with school, I have no interest in going back to school. I still have an interest in learning. Like I still want to improve and learn it as a person, but not through academia and not through studies and school and all this other nonsense that isn't for me. But once I finally came to that realization, you get this freedom where like I can do whatever I want with my life right now. I can go get a random job at a warehouse, use that money and play video games all day. And that's what I did for a couple of years, right? I just worked some shitty warehouse job, came home at like 11 p.m. and played, Xbox and whatever the hell I played, StarCraft, until like 5 in the morning. And then I wake up at 1 p.m. the next day and go back to work. Like that's a type of life I was living. And once you do get that freedom, it is very liberating. But at the same time, you need to be very careful with that freedom and make sure you do make some good choices.
Yes. Oh man, I totally agree, and I resonate with what you just said so much because, I mean, first of all, with what you're studying at the university and stuff, like, to be honest, I feel like, I don't know, for me, I am also not an academia person, like I talked about this with my friend that I feel like the education system is kind of quote unquote fucked. I mean, don't get me wrong,
100%.
I'm really grateful that I'm living in Germany and that the education is not that expensive, and I get student loans, which is not as high as in America, and I'm really grateful for all of that. I'm very lucky. I also have to say that. But the thing is, like, what they teach you at college and university, like, you have to learn for this particular exam, and then like after 1 to 2 months you already forget about that and you don't even use it in real life. And I'm like, okay, then like what's the point of that? Like, at the end they just want to see, oh, you have this bachelor, you have this master, and it's like kind of I'm like, okay, but why? Like, why don't you, like, for me, I think what is more important is actually getting experience and like actually using the thing that you like. And that's why I totally resonate with what you say. And like, currently I'm just I am in the university and I'm just learning for these exams and I'm doing these YouTube videos on the side. But then there's like this dilemma with it goes back to my ego again, which then kind of forces me to procrastinate because I'm not sure whether to do this and that. And then there's this small voice, and then this also leads back again to meditation and to the spiritual enlightenment, the reason why I'm pursuing that as well, one of the reasons. But yeah, I totally resonate with what you said, man. I totally agree with you.
So how many more years do you have left in your program? Are you almost done?
1.5. 1.5.
1.5. Is that as like a
Yeah.
full-time student?
Yes. So this semester I'm actually taking all of the courses, but for me what I usually do is I look at the courses that I actually have to attend and which ones I can kind of like repeat on myself, since everything is online anyway at the moment due to Corona.
Yeah, true, because of COVID.
And so yeah, that is that. And once I have all of these courses, then I have my internship. I'm doing it abroad in Thailand. Once I got the confirmation from my university or college, and then once I have that done, then I only have to write my bachelor's, and then I am really done. And yeah, that is pretty much it then.
That's gonna be a big day for you, man. Hopefully your grandparents will still be around.
Yes, I hope so.
Wait, you said your
because...
your great grandparents? So your parents' grandparents?
Yes, exactly.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is,
wow.
Man, that is crazy.
Because all of my grandparents are all passed, so I only have my parents. My parents left. I guess because in my family everyone had kids when they were older. So I think my parents were like 32. I think they were 32 when they had me. So like the age difference was huge. So I was never even born yet when my great grandparents were still alive. That's cool that you got to, or you can still get to experience that, because that's interesting.
Yeah. I'm lucky, man. Like, since I have my injury with my neck and my damaged vocal cords, it has given me this perspective of gratitude. And like, on the one hand, of course, it kind of sucks because with my injury on my neck, I kind of have like pain in my right side of the head, and my right leg kind of it just feels a bit different, and sometimes it gets into my right hand. And I'm not here to I'm not telling you
that's not
all of
good.
this to pity me, but I'm just telling you this because it has given me a grateful perspective of life, and so now I look at things what I actually have, and now I value myself even more. So, on the one hand, of course, it sucks that it all happened, but on the other, it's great, So yeah.
Oh man, it sounds like a lingering spinal neck injury or something. If it's affecting like the right side of your body.
Yeah, so I don't really know how to say it or describe it, but it's, squats, right?
Yeah.
And so I put the bar instead of on my normally you put it like on kind of your shoulder or your traps, right? And
Yeah, in that groove.
I actually put it on my neck, like directly on my neck.
Oh, bro.
Yeah, yeah, and so while I was going down, everything was okay, but when I was going up, something snapped. And from that day, and that was like 5 years ago, and currently I'm still like looking for treatments and looking for a specialist. And so, all of this has also forced me to turn to the magic of life and the perspective that I have of life now with the gratitude and the law of attraction and all of that, So on the one hand, of course, it sucks, but on the other, it makes sense, So
Yeah.
yeah, trying to
Bro, were
make
you
the best out
squatting
of it.
like 350 pounds or something? Like, what were you doing?
No, that's the thing. Like, dude, that's the thing. I didn't even put on weights, man. Like it was just the bar, and it was
Really?
not heavy at all. Yeah, and it was just because I was pushing the bar against my neck, and somehow I just moved something. I
Oh,
don't know
man.
what, but on that day, I had the worst headache in my entire life, like so bad that I cried, man. Yeah, it was awful. And yeah,
Wow.
ever since then, it actually like the first 2 years or 3 years, I did not really feel anything, but it just happened like recently, like let's say 6 months or 7 months ago, where I feel it in my foot and my leg, and yeah, now it's kind of getting bad or worse. And so I'm like, yeah, I did MRI scan and stuff, and I did it twice or 3 times actually, and they just said like, yeah, the nerves are kind of like, how do you say it? It's being,
Impinged?
uh, yeah,
Like,
kind of, yeah, exactly. And so I think I've moved something, and yeah, I'm
like a
on the
pinched nerve or
journey
something?
of finding a specialist, man. That is another
Wow.
journey.
That's crazy. Hey, I wanted to ask you one more thing quick before we wrap this up. I remember one of
Yes.
your most recent videos, you were talking about how you were going to try psychedelics and see how it affected your whole spiritual enlightenment thing. Interesting thing is, I'm doing a podcast later today where we're going to take psychedelics before we do the pod. So, so I wanted to ask
Oh
you
shit.
what was your experience like?
So wait, this is your first time ever?
Yeah, on psychedelics, yeah,
On
it'll be my first time. We're gonna microdose and then do a pod.
Okay, so you will be taking psilocybin or
I'm guessing, or what's that other one? Amarita muscaria or whatever.
okay.
It's one of
All right.
those. I'm not sure which one.
Okay, is it mushrooms though or
Yeah, yeah, mushrooms.
okay. All right. So if you're doing microdosing, that is totally fine. I mean, so when I took it, I think this time was like my third or fourth time that I took it, but this time it was more of like entertainment purposes. But it if there's one drug that I can recommend to anybody, it would be mushrooms, bro. because
So I've heard.
because it's just so amazing because Okay, first of all, it depends on the type of psilocybin or mushrooms. I'm just gonna call them mushrooms. It depends on the type, because there's more of the philosophical type, then there's more of the funny type where you take it just for entertainment. But yeah, it's amazing, bro. It's really amazing. I cannot say anything else. Or do you want to know like
you gotta experience it?
Like what? Sorry.
I just gotta like take it all in and let the experience just do its thing.
Yeah, kind of, man. I mean, you will actually experience kind of like a laughing phase where you laugh just out of like no reason. But that
Oh
actually
God.
happens to me with some friends, not with all of them, but that is just me because I guess I'm a bit crazy. But yeah, man, it's just amazing, bro. Yeah, just if you're doing microdosing, then everything is good, man. Just be careful not to take like 3 or 4 grams and then you're like hallucinating stuff, and just at the beginning be careful. But since you're doing microdosing, everything is good, man. I think you
Yeah,
will
no, we're gonna do
freaking enjoy
milligrams.
it.
We're not gonna get into grams, just like milligrams, small doses, just to ease
Oh,
our way into
okay.
it. Yeah.
Damn, dude. Then it's really fine. I mean, on my birthday, I took 1 gram, bro, and that was
Oh my
already
God.
not. It's not a lot, man. It's really, I don't know. In order to hallucinate, you need to take at least like I think 3 or 4 grams. So yeah, but you
Yeah, I
will
don't want to
enjoy
go
it.
there. I was thinking 200 milligrams. Is that not enough?
Damn, that's really little. But I don't know, like how strong is the mushroom? I don't know about that. So, do you
Okay, I
happen to
see.
know that?
I'm pretty sure it's gonna be strong because the friend that I'm getting it from, he's a pretty serious individual.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm like, I'm not scared, but I'm like, okay, my wife is gonna be there, my daughter's gonna be there. I don't want to go get crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I want to be a responsible adult still.
I understand, man. But okay, in that case, then I think microdosing is a better option here.
Okay, I'll start off small, then I'll let you know how it goes. Or actually, you'll see it in the podcast.
And also, what I recommend you doing is don't eat anything before, because it is better to take it on an empty stomach, because it affects
Oh,
better.
okay.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna eat dinner first, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
So,
In that case,
it
it's
might be no
okay.
bueno.
It's not a big deal. But I'm just saying, like, if you can. But if you're already having dinner, then have dinner, and yeah, that's okay.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks for the tips, bro. All right, let's wrap up this pod. It was great talking to you, Winnie. Let the people know where they can find your social media, content channels, and all that.
All right, so my YouTube channel is called Mind Now. I also have a website called mind-now.net. And those are kind of my 2 main channels that you can, yeah, connect me with.
And a future podcast in the near future, right?
Yes, a future podcast. I don't know when I will be publishing, to be honest, because it's really behind the scenes. But yeah, let's see.
All right, brother. It was awesome talking to you. If you ever need help with a pod or anything, just reach out. I'll glad to help you out.
Dude, thank you very much for having me on your podcast, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. All right, guys. Peace.